Okay, this is Back Again from the Broken Land, part one of an anticipated two-part series. Back Again from the Broken Land is a Powered by the Apocalypse game that is available presently in Codex Home. That is the name of the particular issue of Codex magazine this can be found in. As of the time of this recording, it's available in the Gauntlet Patreon feed. There'll be a link in the show notes to that. If you're watching this a month or two down the road, it will be available eventually on DriveThruRPG. And we will update the show notes once the drive-thru link goes live. I want to begin by having all of us introduce ourselves. And so when I call on you, please say your name, your pronouns, and anything else you'd like for us to know about you. Your experience in the hobby. Do you have a Twitter handle you want to share? Just anything you'd like to share, honestly. Or nothing, that's fine too. But I'll start. My name is Jason. I use he, him. I am the founder of the Gauntlet Gaming community, and I'm the publisher of this game. I'm going to go over to David.
Hi, yeah, my name's David. I use he, him pronouns. I've been playing and running games with the Gauntlet for a couple of years now. So yeah, I play and run a lot of PBTA games, of which I believe this is one. So I have some sort of familiarity with it. I've also published or had published a couple of pieces of work in the Codex magazine as well, including an incursion for trophy and a mystery for Jason's own Brindlewood Bay, which was a lot of fun. So yeah, that's me. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, it's my favorite Brindlewood Bay mystery, by the way. Thank you, Troy.
Hi, my name's Troy. My pronouns are he, him. I'm a public school teacher here in New York City, and I run lots of indie RPGs. Right now, I have a weekly game of Trophy Gold and a weekly game of Brindlewood Bay. So I'm all ready for.
You're hitting all the buttons.
Exactly. So yeah, I'm all ready for today.
Awesome, thank you, Brian.
I'm Brian, he, him. I've been playing games with the Gauntlet for a couple of years now. That's about it. I have one credit. It's I'm not going to remember, something targeted developmental editing on Hack the Planet. I basically contributed one word.
Nice.
And it got me a credit at the start of the book.
Nice,
but I was a playtester for that.
Nice. Fun fact, I'm the developmental editor of Hack the Planet. Awesome. Keeping our Brindlewood Bay connections going today, Brian was the creator of Brindlewood Bay Character Keeper, which we've all been using online. So that is awesome. Nicholas. Oh, you're muted.
Yep. My name is Nicolas. I use he, him as a pronouns, and I'm French. So you'll notice by my accent. I run mostly indie RPGs. GMless are my favorites. And I'm also a translator and the author of little games for now. But some are coming bigger.
Let's just keep the Brindlewood Bay connection going. Nicholas is also going to be doing the French translation of Brindlewood Bay. So lots of BB connections today. I think that was just by accident, honestly. I don't know. I don't think that was, we didn't plan that, viewers. Okay, awesome. So let's do CATS. CATS is an acronym that stands for Concept, Aim, Tone, and Subject Matter. I like to do CATS before every game that I run in order to establish some basic expectations about what we're going to be doing in the session. And so I'm just going to go through that really quickly. So the concept of Back Again from the Broken Land, this is a game written by Leah and Alexi Sargeant of Cloven Pine Games. And the game is it's essentially like the TLDR version is, it's the hobbits returning home from Mordor, right? Like that's what the game is. Now, it is not set in the universe of the Lord of the Rings, but it is about small people who have just participated in some way in a large calamitous, destructive war against a Doomslord. They had a role to play, and now they are going back home. And the game is about the journey back home. Does have obstacles and dangers, which they'll have to contend with, and they will be going through different parts of the world as they do so. But the main thing that we're doing in this game is telling stories. And so we learn about the characters, we learn about the war, and we learn about the world through the character or through the stories that you all tell. And so at the end, depending on where you stand as far as of your burdens, there's a thing that every character has called burdens. Depending on how many burdens you have left unresolved, determines kind of the quality of your epilogue. Okay, so that's what Back Again from the Broken Land is. There is there is an opportunity for like death and dying, but it's not really that kind of game. It's more about the journey, right? And it's more about the stories and discovering what happened, basically. The aim for today is after my spiel, we're going to make characters. And then after we make characters, we will make some choices that will help flesh out the world a little bit. And then once we've done that, we'll probably take a break, a little bit longer break than normal, maybe 10 or 15 minutes, so that I can think about the choices that we've made and think about how the story is going to start. Once we get back from that break, we will begin play, and we will play through till the end of the session. We'll do a feedback session after we're done for this session. And then next week, we'll just pick up and just start playing. And then and we should be able to conclude next week. The tone of the game is, my experience with it so far is that it's adventurous. It can be like dangerous and dark, but it's definitely more high adventure and more about camaraderie between the characters. Okay. The subject matter, I don't anticipate anything subject matter wise that's particularly objectionable. It's all about on the level of Lord of the Rings in terms of what kinds of stuff you can expect. It's certainly not like, say, Trophy, where cannibalism and all sorts of other horrible things are always on the table. It's more toned down than that. That said, we are going to be having 3 safety tools that we'll be using. The first is the open door policy. The open door policy is quite simply that if you have to leave for any reason at all, you can do so, and we won't ask questions, you can just go. The second safety tool is the X card. The way the X card works in our context here today is if something happens that you find to be disagreeable or unfun, or just uncomfortable in an unfun way, or just for any reason at all, really, you can just say X card or type it in the chat, and we will stop and we will excise whatever was just done. I may ask for clarification on what precisely is being X carded, but I won't ask you why is it being X carded. The last safety tool that we're going to use is lines and veils. Lines are things that we do not want in the game at all, and veils are things that we're okay with being in the game, but we prefer not to role play it or see it on screen. I'm going to say my lines and veils, and then I will wait about 30 seconds or so to give you all a chance to speak up. You can also send me a DM in Discord if you don't want to say your lines and veils on the recording, and I will telegraph them to the group, and I won't say who they're from. So I'll have Discord open for that purpose. But let me go through my lines and veils. My one line is sexual violence. I don't want to do sexual violence in the game of any sort, and so we're not going to. My veils are, I think I'm going to put behind a veil violence against small children. Teenagers are fine by me. I don't give a shit about teenagers, but small kids, I prefer not to do that on screen. And also torture. I'm okay with torture being a thing that happens. I just prefer not to role play it. Those are my lines and veils. I will wait a moment for you all to either just give me a thumbs up or say you're good or say your lines and veils.
I'd just like to kind of add on to specifically on the torture. I prefer to run with like a line on, certainly on like the players sort of actually perpetrating torture, and definitely on the idea of like torture being used as like a reasonable,
A problem,
way of doing things. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah,
okay. Yeah. That's good. Okay, it's a thumbs up from Troy. Fine. All right. And I'm going to check the Discord really quickly. All right. Nicholas, you good? Okay. So let's talk about this game. You do have the rules of the game in that folder if you want to pop those open real quick. You are little people who walked into a big war. The Doomslord's forces were gathered in the Broken Land, and for some reason, your small fellowship played a key role in their fall. Now, laden with stories to tell and burdens to bear, you set off on the journey home. But the Doomslord's hunters are still out there, and it's a long way to walk back again from the Broken Land. This is a short Powered by the Apocalypse game of small adventurers sharing stories on a long walk home. It's meant to be played in 1 or 2 sessions. We're doing 2. And of course, it's inspired by the emotional, even bittersweet stretches of The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. So we are going to start with character creation. And essentially, if you want to go ahead and open up that Google Sheet, everyone just grab a, well, once you've decided on which one you're going to do, there's a column for each of the different character types. You might want to open up the PDF and scroll down to page 8, where the playbooks start, because the choices you have to make are listed on the PDF playbook. But the different playbooks are there. I would just thumb through them and read the little italics part at the top just to see what the character's about, and then we will get to creating. I'm going to actually pause the recording for this part. I don't want to subject viewers to us making characters, but we'll be back, viewers, to introduce them. Okay, we're back. So we're going to introduce characters. I'm going to start by reading the little descriptive bit for each of the playbook types and that we have, and then we will go through and introduce characters. You're going to introduce your character by gear, gaze, and gift. Gear is something that you brought with you on the journey. Gaze is what others see in your expression, and the gift is something you received along the way. And also tell us your special move, and that's it. That's all we really need. Your playbook stories we'll kind of deal with as we need them when we play. But we have a shepherd, a volunteer, a wayfinder, and a turncoat. I'm going to go in the order of the sheet and start with the shepherd. When hope flickers, your companions look to you. How will you keep the flock together? And that is Saradic. Am I saying that right, David? Do you think?
I think I was going to go with a hard C, so Ceredic.
Ceredic, yeah, that's very Tolkien, right? It's good. Yeah, so Ceredic, great, I love it. Tell us about Ceredic.
Yeah, sure thing. Ceredic is the shepherd. His gear is a much mended cloak, which I think is this, for those of you who can see the character keeper in the picture, it's this sort of quite bright and colourful, almost like tapestry embroidered cloak, but it has clearly been through the wars, has been restitched over many times, possibly with little alterations done at the same time. His gaze is wide-eyed and wondering for all that we've been through together. I think he's still very much enamored by the wonders of the world, and we sort of see that in the way he sees things. And the gift he has is a lantern that can always be lit, which he sort of carries, again, referencing the picture, sort of one of those like glass bowls in a sort of net, almost like a fishing weight, an old-fashioned fishing weight, but that he has suspended from a walking staff.
Wonderful. And what is your special move?
Certainly. My special move is Rally the Flock. When I share a poem or parable to raise my companion's spirits, I roll with True. On a hit, everyone listening can clear a named burden, and the first companion to take heart and sally forth rolls with advantage when they do. However, on a 7 to 9, my own words ring hollow to me, or I leave out a darker passage and I take on a burden. On a miss, something immediately undercuts my message.
Very good. Thank you. All right. Let's go on to the volunteer. So let me grab that. You jumped at the chance to go far beyond your hometown. How has the journey changed you, Bosco? Nicholas, tell us about Bosco.
Yes. So Bosco is the volunteer. As you can see on the picture, is a young guy who jumped on the adventure with nothing in his mind. He just wanted to go there. He takes the first clothes he has on hand when he left. It was not no clothes for a long journey like they got. His gaze is bold and benevolent. Despite all that he see and done, he still has this benevolent gaze. And during this journey, he got the gift of a dead branch that he can make bloom, but he's the only one that can make this. And he keeps it at his... sorry, I don't have the word. Where will you put your sword?
Oh, like your scabbard or your...
Yes, as a scabbard. His special move is gayless. When I approach a stranger and tell him a story of home, they are compelled to respond in kind with a story of their own. This might create goodwill, but if not, it will at least distract them long enough for someone to get a drop on them.
I love it. Thank you. Next is the Wayfinder. And so, let's find that character on here. Somewhere. There we go. You walked and wandered far even before the great adventure. What still pulls you back toward home, Lambert? Troy, tell us about Lambert.
All right. So Lambert, as far as stats go, I find it interesting that the person who's been around maybe the most or has like the most evened out stats. I'm not good at Swift, Keen, or True. Gear, he has mud-caked, hobnailed boots. So I picture this person has like traveled great distances and tried to keep like the same boots for some weird reason. Important to him for some reason. His gaze is cool and critical. I'm picturing like the picture below, for those of you that can see it. I'm picturing someone that like is really good at just taking full advantage of like downtime and really getting as zen as possible and as cool as possible, to remain as calm and cool and collected as possible in those moments where he can focus on being like very critical of the situation to keep us all alive maybe, or make the right choices at least. And then a gift that Lambert got along the way is the Song of an Unseen Bird. Not sure what that means. I'm not sure if it's like maybe a literal bird that is flying around that no one can see. Maybe some like mystical bird that the elves or someone told us about. But it could also be, I was also thinking maybe a bird that like is no longer here. Maybe it's extinct now because of whatever the Doomslord caused. And so like a much more somber song. I haven't decided yet. His special move is Wild Ways. Lambert has an understanding with wild animals. I know they're not pets, and yet I also know that they know that I'm not prey. When you approach an animal with suitable respect in hopes of helping it or getting help from it, tell a story of the journey and roll plus true. On a 10 plus, the creature acts out as I wish, but on a 7 to 9, there's a choice of different like costs. Like I can lose gear or attract unwanted attention, stuff like that. And on a miss, the creature goes wild, and the GM will tell me what ensues. So that'll be interesting. But yeah.
Wonderful, thank you. And finally, we have the turncoat. The Doomslord used you as an instrument, but you came back at the 11th hour. Can you ever pick up your old life again, Malaric? Brian, tell us about Malaric.
Malaric has a brand on his cheek, as is his gear. His gaze is darting and dancing. And his gift is a cooling breeze you can't leave behind. And his special move, is that what those are called? Is laden with doom. When the hunters or another terrible peril approach, you may tell a story of the journey that explains your terror. And on a hit, the insight gives advantage to anyone in the fellowship evading the danger. And miss, he takes a burden, as he recalls, being in the Doomslord's grip. Unless you're on a partial success. On a miss, he takes disadvantage on any course of action.
Wonderful, thank you. All right, so we have our characters in hand. The next thing to do is to make some decisions about the world. And so I'm going to direct your attention to the PDF of the game rules, and specifically page 7. This is the backstory, and we're going to answer these questions together at the start. And I think the way we're going to do this is we have several choices to make. And so I think we're going to, we'll do a combination of rolling and picking. So for the first one, who was the Doomslord? I think we're going to just roll for those. So if somebody wants to roll me up 3d6 on the die roller, that would be lovely. We'll learn about our Doomslord. That is a 3, 5, and 5. And so our Doomslord was a vicious warlord seeking forbidden knowledge and wielding magic that strained the fabric of creation. So that's good. we will put a pin in that for now, but that's a good start. And now we have 4 other questions, and I think the easiest thing to do is just to assign these to one to each of you. You can roll if you wish, or you can just read them and pick one that you like best. But I think for our shepherd, you get the first question. What is your hometown characterized by? The volunteer is going to get the second question. What quest drew you from your hometown to play a humble but crucial role in the Doomslord's downfall? These are going right in order, so that's good. The Wayfinder is going to have the third question. What makes the Doomslord's hunters too dangerous to fight? And the Turncoat will have the last question. What makes the Doomslord's hunters too terrifying to face? So read through those, and whenever you're ready, David, with the shepherd's first choice there, which is about your hometown, let me know. We'll get started.
Yeah, I think I am going to go for our hometown is characterized by green rolling hills and houses covered in plant life. I definitely, certainly being the shepherd, I can definitely see it being out on the rolling hills, tending to flocks of sheep. And I really like that image of the houses sort of covered in plant life. I can see lots of like window boxes and like thatched roofs with like sort of flowers and moss growing on top of the thatch.
Wonderful, great. Give me just a moment to make a note of that real fast, and then I'll be with you all in a second. Because I'll need these things to kind of start creating our scenario here. So green rolling hills and houses covered in plant life. Awesome. Okay, what quest drew you from your hometown to play a humble but crucial role in the Doomslord's downfall? And this is everyone, right? But it's your choice, Nicholas.
So it would be restoring a lost crown to its heir to rally the nations against the Doomslord.
Nice, I love it. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I think maybe it has something to is a tiny part of this lost crown that was going to be in our land and needed to be sent where the battles were led.
So you all had a piece of it, and you brought your piece to be rejoined.
Or somebody came and tell us we had this part.
Good, yeah, great, love it. All right, wonderful, thank you. And Troy, what makes the Doomslord's hunters too dangerous to fight?
Initially, I was thinking they might command the elements of nature, but since this vicious warlord wants forbidden knowledge and magic that strains the fabric of creation, I think I'm actually going to go with when you strike one down, two spring back up. It seems like the most unnatural of the possible answers there. So that's that's what I'm going with.
Wonderful, thank you. And finally, Brian, tell us about the hunters. Why are they too terrifying to face?
They drain their surroundings of warmth, light, and color.
Nice. Very good. Okay, so with all that done, that is the game set up. And I have some choices to make as the GM for how to kind of kick things off, and I'm going to make those choices momentarily. I also am going to need just a little bit of time to sort of think about everything that you've all presented so far and decide how I want to sort of shape the early parts of the scenario. Essentially, there are these 6 locations that you travel through to get back home, and but they're not like fleshed out. So I just need to think about them for a little bit. So we're going to take a break. We will be back in 15 minutes. We'll say 5 minutes after the hour. Okay. See you then. Okay, we're back. Before we begin play proper, I do want to talk a little bit about burdens. So your characters have burdens. They start unnamed. So you have a certain number of slots that are essentially ready to be named and filled, right? I believe everyone basically starts with Oh, well, actually, no, Bosco has one, I guess, in the beginning. Interesting. But everyone else has two, except for the turncoat, who has three. But you have 3 burden slots, essentially. They can only be cleared once they are named and then cleared. So the way they get named, there's different roles that cause that to happen, different die results. And then the main way they get cleared is after they're named and you all share a meal together, you get to clear a burden that way. I can burden you with more burden slots as a GM move, so I could do that whenever I want, or it can also happen as a result of a die roll. But essentially, what I'll say is you open up another burden, and so you'll have an unnamed open burden at that point. And that's kind of like the whole game is just telling stories, remembering burdens, clearing burdens, and evading danger. That's kind of the whole deal. And so with all that said, let's begin. Any questions, though, before I begin? So, as we've established, you all had a piece of the crown that would be given to the lost heir, and it would be the symbol that they would be able to use to rally the nations against the Doomslord. And that all happened. The heir is a woman. We'll just refer to her as the heir for now. And she was able to unite the kingdoms and stand against the Doomslord. You all had your small role to play in the actual battle as well, but a terrible series of battles, a war broke out, culminating in a great battle that eventually defeated the Doomslord. And we start our story essentially in the throne room, where the heir has taken her rightful place, and all the great peoples of the lands, all the big peoples of the lands are gathered to see the coronation. You're there as well. And I want to just start by painting the scene a little bit. And I want to first ask everyone to contribute a little bit of detail here. As you're in this grand hall, this great throne room hall where the heir is being crowned and everyone is celebrating, what do you see around you that speaks to the majesty of this place, the bigness of this place? Think about it for a moment, and whoever has an idea, just say so.
I think it's a huge space, and the amount of light that is let in here speaks to it. Like, I'm used to, if spaces are this large and they're this brightly lit inside, it's because there are like holes in the ceiling or something like that. But the fact that I don't know, something between the huge windows or maybe stained glass or something, it's just the fact that this place is this big and this grandly lit is magnificent.
Suffused with light. I love it. Who wants to go next?
Yeah, I think as well, all sort of thronged around here are statues of all the previous kings and queens of the land before the line was lost. And it's not just that they're like human-sized and therefore big, but they're like, they're on an epic scale. They're probably like maybe 20 foot tall each, sort of even like an order of magnitude larger than the real human folk here, and just sort of towering above in sort of dark granite and like marble and just like looming, creating almost like a sort of like a colonnade of these statues of monarchs past.
I love it. Thank you. Let's go next.
Go ahead. No, okay. I think you know the air is, you know, their place of honor is raised up higher than everything else, but also the sides of the room are raised, and all of the steps are oversized. So you know, even a normal sized person, it's a bit uncomfortable climbing this whole thing. Is just on a bigger scale. And so I think our small stature, we probably have to like almost not quite like climb up, you know, the step. I mean, but it's maybe close to waist height almost on us.
I love it. Thank you. And Bosco?
When we look up to the sky in the broken ceiling, we can see that there are birds, majestic birds like eagles, that are just overlooking the assistants, and they are peaceful, just watching.
I love it. That's beautiful. Thank you. Now, the air looks, in this moment, the air looks like you've never seen her before. She's dressed in a resplendent velvet gown. She has the crown on her head, and she looks regal. She looks almost divine, right, sitting there on the throne. But you all knew her during the war. You traveled with her even when she was just a sort of when she was a more common she had a more common disposition, right? And I mean, she's an excellent warrior, she's a highly skilled person, but she was not grand, right? I'd like for each of you just to share a short story of the air, just a little moment you shared with her before she was crowned and united the kingdoms. So think about that for a moment. And again, whoever wants to start, please do.
Yeah, I'll start. I remember a time with the air on the other people on the gathering. We played cards, and she lost to me, and she was a very very bad loser. She lost a temper just because she was losing to some stupid play of cards.
I love it.
It was just so human.
I love it. Thank you, Bosco.
The one that I was thinking was, I'm so used to traveling with people who, a lot of the places that I go to with them, or maybe until she joined the party or something, it was always me being the person who was the only one who'd been somewhere before. And so I'm picturing like one night around the campfire sort of, or multiple nights, sharing stories of like our favorite pubs or our favorite like quiet reading spaces or something in like the different places that we traveled to.
Good, thank you.
Yeah, and I think we see just a brief view. It's sort of like getting towards evening, sat around a campfire, and Keradik is sewing together just a kind of fairly rough spun shirt that's clearly far too big for him, and where he's kind of sewn up like what's obviously a kind of blade slash in this shirt. He's kind of sewn it together, but then like worked it into a little embroidery of a crown as the air comes over, and he kind of shyly hands it over to her, and she sort of ruffles his hair and puts it away in her pack.
I love it. Thank you. Malric.
I think there was a moment where there's some kind of incoming attack, and Mallory runs and like to tackle her out of the way, and just kind of bounces off of her, and it manages to save her from the attack, but it's just because she's like leaning down to apologize and ask, what on earth he's doing.
Good, I love it. Thank you. Well, the coronation complete, the war is over, and people are returning to their homelands. And the five of you, as the only representatives of your hometown, are heading back to your hometown. And we're going to kick off with, there's a journey move called Chart a Course, and the moves are all listed on the second tab of the Character Keeper if you wish to look at them there. But Chart a Course sort of determines our basic disposition as we enter a new place in the journey. And I think it's appropriate that our Wayfinder roll the first instance of Chart a Course. And so please do that. Give me a 2d6 plus keen.
All right, I rolled a 7, and I believe I have a +1, so it's an 8.
8. So let's read the move. When you chart a course for your traveling band, tell a story of the journey. I have to tell a story of the journey too, and roll plus keen. Let's have that first. So let's have the story. The stories are all listed in the third tab. Once a story of the journey, like whichever one you pick, we mark it off, and that one cannot be chosen again. So take a look at the stories of the journey and decide which one you want to tell.
I think I'll tell the story of the person you hope to be reunited with. The question at the top of the Wayfinder is like, what still pulls you back toward home? And I think there's someone that I love back home who I think I had promised before the trouble with the Doomslord. I had promised them that I would settle, put away my wandering, and maybe try to like start a family with or something. And I think it was maybe like a year into getting settled and actually finally stop feeling that itch to leave and go and see different things was when I left. And so I hope to be reunited with them in the fact that I hope they take me back. I hope they accept me back. I hope they're still there. I don't know what we've heard from back home or how frequently. And so I think starting this journey back home, I think it's been the first time that I've thought about this person in a very long time. And I'm hopeful that they'll still be there.
Yeah, that's great. Let's name that character.
Okay. I'll go ahead and pull a name from one of the other unused.
And I'm just going to type it straight onto that little story prompt so we can remember.
Okay, sweet. Let's go Theodelinda, and she goes by Theo.
Theodelinda. I don't know if I'm spelling this right, but
Right.
And this is she is your character's. Remind me your character's name. It's going to take me a minute.
Lambert.
Lambert, yeah. Wonderful, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so you got an 8 on that roll, right?
Mm-hmm.
So on a hit, you find a way forward and mark the journey home path. I'll take care of that. On a 7 and 9, an unexpected obstacle rears its head. How is this land different than you remember? So let's talk about the land that you're going to. So Lambert has been guiding you through the initial journey away from the castle back home. And that journey has taken you to your first destination, so to speak, which is the steel-sown field. I shall type that here. The steel-sown field is essentially where the major battle of the war took place. The bodies have all been cleared, but there's still tons of detritus left over from the battle. Destroyed buildings, rusted weapons and armor, skeletons and things like that, bits of bone. Like there's just a lot left over there. The question that you have to answer, Lambert, is how has this place changed from when you last saw it, right?
I think on top of what you said, I think there's a lot of carrion, but especially since all the bodies have been cleared, I'm like who Lambert would consider like low life carrion, like people, scavengers, people who come in and are trying to make a profit off of what's been left here, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. So we'll get to the obstacle in a moment. I do want to start, though, with a question. I'm going to pose this question specifically to Bosco. Bosco, what has sprung up in the battle's detritus? Like, you know, we have all these carrion, you know, literal carrion animals, plus also scavengers. But I think something else has sprung up there, either literally or figuratively, right? Maybe it could be something related to the scavengers. Maybe it could be something part of the natural world. But what is growing in the remains of this battle?
The remains of this battle were multiple corpses mangled, and where all steel was left behind. The dark magic of the Dark Lord, the Doomslord, mixed things up, and there are like stories of metal monsters made of swords, armors, and shields that are crawling the battlefield, the old battlefield.
I like
And
that very much.
Scavengers are ignoring some areas because of that.
Yeah, that's great. I love it. So we have some things going on here as you're crossing through this quite large battlefield, right? Like it'll take a day or two to get through it, right? And reading the text of the move again, it says that an unexpected obstacle rears its head. I think what Bosco has just described, or really Nicholas has just described, is good, and that may come up. I think we also have this issue of scavengers and carrion animals to play with. I think, to start, you see some scavengers picking through some rubble And then a shadow sort of darkens overhead, or sort of darkens the land down below. Something overhead, something flying overhead is casting a shadow down. And then you see it. Large crows. These crows are overgrown from the carrion of war and the melange of the Doomslord's magic. They are big. They are about the size of a small desk. They have milky white eyes, and their beaks seem to permanently drip with viscera. But you see these crows, these large crows, swoop down, and on these scavengers, some of them manage to get away, but a couple of them do not, and the crows just tear them apart. Nasty, hostile, large crows are the thing to contend with right now. I will say that you're not exactly in a position of strength to deal with this. If you'd gotten a 10, you probably would be. But there is at least a possibility of taking care of this issue or getting past this without having to encounter them, I think. And so I'm going to throw it over to, who's the one that talks to animals? Isn't that someone here?
I think that is Lambert as well.
Lambert as well. The question is, are these like, I don't think these are the kind of animals that are like, negotiate. I think they know your prey. Yeah. So
I think I and Lambert agree with you.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. So we'll maybe put a pin in that one. I think I'm just going to turn over to Karadik. Karadik, what do you do?
Yeah, I think Karadik, as we've sort of been following along in Lambert's path, with I think he kind of steps up behind Karadik and kind of puts a hand on his arm and sort of like does that kind of like slightly leaning past him to get a better look at the crows up ahead, and I think he sort of scans the battlefield and says quietly, probably more quietly than he actually needs to because they're crows and they're not all that close, but so it says, I think maybe if we head around past that old tumble-down farm, they might not spot us.
I agree. Although the Doomslord is no longer with us, his stench will be with us for quite a long time. These things do not look natural.
No, they're horrible, twisted things by the looks of it.
So it sounds like you might want to negotiate an obstacle here. Is that?
Yeah, I think so. I think this is probably with Keen, I'd say, for kind of trying to scope out a route that will sort of take us around them.
Yeah,
I was almost wondering if Lambert would like recommend finding like cloaks or maybe all this like detritus armor and sort of like cover us and make us try to blend in from an aerial thing. I don't know if that would change any of the stats, but there's just so much of it around us.
I think it can all kind of roll into the same die roll for sure.
Cool, yeah.
With that as a bit of fiction to go with it, right?
Cool.
Let's talk about the 3 stats though. We have swift, keen, and true. Now they are intentionally not described in the rules, but swift I take to mean fast, speed, doing things in a hurry. Keen is I take to mean doing things smart, right? And true, I think that's the most ambiguous of them. But basically, in my interpretation, true is doing things like either like essentially it's more of like an emotion, right? It's like I believe really strongly, so I am going to dedicate my all to it, or I'm going to stand against I'm going to stand against the coming storm. I will not waver. Like that's true, right? Not wavering, right? But of course, I think it's kind of open to the player to interpret it how they wish as they're getting ready to do as they've described things. And I think the way you've described it, Karadik, is keen is probably the right move, especially the way with the little like idea of putting cloaks over you to sort of disguise yourself. And so let's read that move. When you negotiate an obstacle, say how you're approaching it. Done that, and roll plus keen. So go ahead and roll plus keen.
That is a 5. Sorry, a 4 even.
On a miss, prepare for things to go from bad to worse. I always have the option on a miss to give you a burden. I'm going to make you open up an unnamed burden as well. So do that, please, Karadik. And things are going from bad to worse. So it's a miss, so I'm going to take the fiction. You all have put the cloaks on, going with this plan. And we see you sort of, the aerial view is like three little dun-colored mounds sort of moving along the battlefield slowly. The crows overhead. And you're getting to this like the ruins of this farmhouse, which is a little bit off from the battlefield, sort of going the long way around. It's all going pretty well until I will open it up to the group. Who peeks out from their cloak first? Who wants to be the brave?
I'm definitely going to happy to volunteer for that, as I think I definitely get the feeling that Karadik is a lot less good at implementing plans than he is at coming up with them. So,
if everyone's okay with Karadik looking first, then we shall do that. Karadik, you peek out to see a large, milky white eye just staring at you. And you smell the hot, rancid meat breath of a particularly large, engorged carrion crow. It's very big. It's like the size of a cart. It's huge. It's so big it can't take flight. It's like it cannot fly. It's just there on the ground. Here, I think we have the peril move. We have to do a peril move. You can either run, you can hide, or you can make a desperate stand. I don't think hide's an option for you right now, Karadik. You can run or make a desperate stand. Your choice.
I think Karadik is going to let out a yelp, and I think he is going to make a run for it. This does not seem like something that he can reasonably fend off,
When you run, Name who you most want to protect, and roll plus swift.
I think I'm going to follow on from what was just had, and I think it's going to be, Lambert, who he's sort of been close to, and I think again he's going to just kind of try and like pull on his sleeve and get him to run.
Roll plus swift.
Certainly. Sorry, I've lost the tab. There we go. That is a 6, as I have a -1 in swift, sadly.
I think I'm going to let everyone else get away, but Lambert. Let's just go around the table and describe how you escape this hopping, grotesque, bloated carrion crow. Start with Bosco.
As soon as I heard Keredic screaming or running, don't know why, I heard something. I take a look at under the cape and see that gigantic bird. And I'm not in front of him. He's clearly directed to Keredic. And I make one of the best run of my life towards the farm, and I almost lost to take a look to my fellow companions, but I think of me first, and I go to jump under a wall in ruin, and I just stay there until I learn more about the other.
Love it. Maloric, please narrate your escape.
Yeah, I guess Maloric was a little bit slower on the uptake, and I think doesn't see Lambert. He's maybe on the other side of the crow. The crow's between us, and just sees Keredic and Bosco, and realizes they've have a head start on him, and so if this crow catches the chase, he's the one who's it's going to catch, and so running straight for the farm maybe is not going to work out, and so runs towards one of these shambling animated metal creatures, which is closer, and the crow kind of starts after him and then sees that creature and kind of hesitates, and that allows him to get away.
Keredic, please describe how you get away but lose track of Lambert.
Yeah, I wonder if this is okay with you, Lambert, if, like I said, kind of Keredic's grabbed onto Lambert's sleeve and starts like running and trying to drag Lambert away, but I think Keredic maybe trips over a sort of a rusted sword sort of sticking out of the ground and sort of fully face plants onto the ground, and Lambert like helps get him back up onto his feet, but that's like enough time for the crow to catch up with us, sort of thing.
Indeed. Lambert, you are pinned in by this hopping, obese, engorged crow. It's just, your back is up against a wall, up against a barn, and there's a couple of like large hay bales and troughs, and you just get pinned right in there. And this thing is just like kind of like looming in towards you, creeping up towards you, just kind of right. And I think you have to make a desperate stand. So let's take a look at that move. When you make a desperate stand against the hunters, it's the hunters. Is that specific to the hunters? I thought it was just any bad thing. Maybe I have that wrong. Oh, it is specifically against the hunters. Oh, interesting. Well, I think it's probably negotiate an obstacle then in that case. Yeah, what do you do?
Part of me wants to like try to use wild ways and try to maybe specifically because of our experience with Malaric and how Malaric was at one point used by I can't remember what we call it in this the Doomslord, and like I've seen redemption, maybe trying to appeal to the inner crow of this poor thing, knowing that if things go south, this could go really, really terrible for me. But that's sort of like where my gut feels. What do you think?
I like it. We'll read the move again. You have an understanding with wild animals. This is, you know they're not pets, definitely not. They know you're not prey. When you approach an animal with suitable respect in hopes of helping it or getting help from it, and we'll interpret that to mean being left alone.
Yeah.
Tell a story of the journey and roll plus true.
What do you think? Do you think fit or should we go with the basic move?
It's pressing up against the boundaries of plausibility, but I like it. I think it's a fun part of the story, and it might be our best opportunity to see your move too. Okay, so cool. I think let's go for it.
All right. Tell a story of the journey. Let's look at those. I'll talk about the place I've traveled through where I was most tempted to stay. I'm picturing some sort of coastal city, or maybe a city like betwixt by rivers, and because of that, it has a very rich and diverse population, community, but I think whatever the local resource, the local careers that these people have, it's very European in the sense that it's like they focus on they have a focus on like I don't know, like self-care, spending time with your family, spending time with like outside of your job. Your life is not defined by your career, and I think he like found either like a library or like some sort of den with nooks and crannies, and like just spent so much time like with a drink and a book and or like a pipe, and just absolutely loved it. It was his way. He was able to escape and like through his books, he was able to escape and travel the world in like a safe and secluded place and a private place. So it really, really appealed to him.
Wonderful, thank you.
All right.
Please go ahead and roll your move.
Plus true. All right. Come on, normally pleasing donkey, help us out. All right, I got a 10.
Nice. On a 10 plus, the creature acts as you wish. Just wrap up the scene. How are you all safe now?
Oh, geez. I think I just like, you see me staring into these massive milky white eyes, and Um, we don't know about Malaric's like past yet, but I'm thinking maybe there's just like a parallel between looking into Malaric's eyes once and like coming to reason with them and I think Lambert likes to think that, I don't know, maybe a speech that I gave Malaric like really did it and really convinced him to make the right choice. And I think I give some similar speech as far as like, this isn't who you are. You know, who you're serving no longer exists and you don't need to be doing this terrible thing. Like, go back
You
to
know,
your...
you mentioned eyes, and I think that's super interesting because Malaric has darting and dancing eyes. I interpret that to mean like always like looking around, right?
Mhm.
And I wonder if the crow is doing that too, right? Is that like something the crow is doing? Like
Oh, I love
kind
it.
of,
Like beneath the like milky white shade that is like pulled over its eyes right now, you can see the remnants of like the crow beneath it, and it's like desperately trying to look past this corruption, right? And so yeah, I'm trying to appeal to the inner crow of like, just leave and um, you know, look, you're big enough to be the king of crows. Go be the king of crows somewhere and leave us to. This is all past. I harbor no ill will against you, and you shouldn't against me.
I love it. Thank you. I think we're going to spend some time on this farm. Um, it is it's relatively secluded from the rest of the Steelstone field, and it is an opportunity to do the move called gaze into the distance. Gaze into the distance is one of the main ways you name your burdens. And so essentially when we have a little bit of downtime to sort of, you know, to sort of like look at something lovely in the environment, to think about the world that used to be or could be, then you have a chance to name one of your burdens. We're going to take a little break. And so when we get back, you'll have an opportunity to do that if you wish. And I'm going to be thinking about those. You said they were like twisted magical constructs, right? Like swords and bits of armor and things. Is that right, Nicholas? That's kind of, yeah, good. Let's see if there's something to do there. But, in any case, let's take a 5-minute break. Okay.
Is it, before we go, any guidance on burdens? Like while we're thinking about it, is it like?
Let's just read what it says in the rules. The rules say, burdens represent the unfinished business that weighs down the characters even after the Doomslord has been defeated. They begin unnamed. For the character, this means the burden is something they are avoiding remembering or thinking about. For the player, it's an invitation to define your character. What do they need to resolve to return home whole? When you name a burden, your character is ready to try to make amends, forgive themselves, or otherwise attempt to clear it. Thus, a burglar might gaze into the distance after telling a story of the journey and name a burden. The burglar reveals that he is carrying the cloak pin of the sword maiden who died defending the travelers, and that he promised to return it to her father. His burden is that he has taken no action to do so. He can name the burden as the cloak pin or lethargy, whichever seems true. So, yeah. But it's essentially a chance to flesh out your character and learn what sits heavily on their heart. But let's take 5. It is late in the day, not quite dusk, but getting pretty close. And there are you're at this farm, and it's a peaceful place. There is a farmhouse that is in reasonably good shape. You can definitely see scorch marks on the walls and roof from where the war touched it. And there's a barn that has great big gaping holes in the sides and the top, but is still standing. And there is a stable. there were probably animals at one point, but they've been let go or were, lost in the war in some way. But you all just have some time to catch your breath, having escaped the carrion crows. I think I'm going to start with Bosco. Bosco, what do you do? And if you want to gaze into the distance, this is a great time to do so.
Just to make sure, the gaze into the distance, it's really to go into character, it's not literal.
So it is, when you gaze into the distance, describe what fragment of loveliness in the landscape has caught your eye, and then remember and name one of your burdens. It's literally just your character looking out at the landscape. So.
Yeah, so I'm sit on a wall, looking to where we might go later. I don't know. And there's a wood, a twisted wood. I see some of the strange creature made of metal we might have looked at. And I think I will not go there. It's too dangerous for us. And I look at my my wood, the dead branch that is blossoming only for me. And I remember the tasks that was given to me. It's to put it back into a fertile earth for it to regrow. And I try again. I already did that, but I try again with no hope, no faith, and it blossomed in my hand. I put it in earth, and the blossom dies. I kept back the dead branch, put it back on my scabbard, and go to my companions. I have to grow it back somewhere to make it alive again.
That's wonderful. How shall we name that burden? And here, if anyone has any ideas, by all means, speak up.
Find a new home to life.
I like that. Yeah, it's good. Because it implies not just, like, the branch is a symbol in that way, right? Like, it implies, like, it's a bigger thing, right? So it's good. So you'll just type that in your little burden spot there. And good. I'm going to go to Malaric, our turncoat. Malaric, what are you doing?
I'm definitely gazing into the distance. I think, I think he's standing somewhere where, off to the right, you could see the steel-sown field and these, mutant crows and all the destruction. And then off to his left, there's nature and trees, and he sees I think he sees like a bird protecting its nest. There's a larger predatory bird kind of circling, and you see it kind of harassing it and getting it to fly off. And it reminds me, I think this burden is just called cowardice. And he's thinking about that moment when he was running away from that crow, and he saw it kind of hesitate. And I think that the thought occurred to him that maybe he could move closer to it and draw it away and then back away, and take that risk and give his companions time to escape, and he didn't do that. He's thought, well, I don't even know where my companions are right this moment, and didn't stop. And then when he saw Lambert just cornered, he was like, if one of us was going to die from this crow, it should have been me.
Nice, I love it. Thank you. As you are perhaps leaving to rejoin the group, you'll pass by the barn where you hear scratching coming from the inside wall. Rats or something, perhaps, but you definitely hear some scratching. Let's cut over to Karadik. What do you do?
Yeah. So yeah, I think once things have got back to relative safety, Karadik kind of looks a bit crestfallen in general, and I think kind of scrambles up into the sort of loft of the ruined farmhouse, and is just sort of lying down on his stomach, sort of head propped up on his hands, as he sort of looks out over the edge of the sort of this area, and where it starts to get a bit more wild. And I think he just sees like a group, not a flock, but some deer, kind of just looking a bit wary, but kind of grazing at the edge of the longer grass around the sort of the farm. And I did just wanted to double check in with Lambert. Are you okay if Karadik has kind of a bit of an unrequited crush on Lambert?
Absolutely.
Cool. Yeah, and I think sort of see him as well looking down at Lambert, as Lambert's doing whatever Lambert's doing, and he just sort of like sighs and kind of there's that look of like I've screwed up again sort of thing, and as he's up there on the in this sort of loft, and that's the burden I'm going to mark down.
Nice. What are you going to call that?
I think I think I'll just go with unrequited love, I think, as the burden.
Very good. And from your elevated position, perhaps looking out the window of the loft of the farmhouse, you can see a little ways at a funny angle, but you can see some of the exposed part of the barn, looking down into the barn. And there's definitely something moving around in the barn, big enough to cast shadows and to be seen from where you're at. I'm going to cut over to Lambert. Lambert, what do you do?
I think I'm found sitting curled up underneath, I want to say a tree, but it is probably just I don't know, slightly tall stump. And I don't have a library to carry with me, so I think instead I'm actually like turning to journaling, and just like jotting down what all has happened. But I'm sitting facing not like toward home. I think I'm facing back from like where we came, and seeing maybe perhaps like that grand palace or throne room that we were in, and seeing it still all lit up like from the inside. And I think it makes me think of home, and it makes me think of I'm afraid of not being accepted back home by Theo. the fact that I left and so abruptly. But I think ultimately, and maybe this is through the journaling, that Lambert comes to this conclusion, but like there's no hope of Theo forgiving me if I don't forgive myself first. And so I think that's the burden, is just forgiveness of myself. As far as how does your outward behavior shift? I think I've always been very critical of people's choices and whether they were for the good of the party or just for the good of oneself. And I think the party's going to see a change in Lambert, where Lambert is now, I don't know, like quick to apologize for overstepping or assuming a certain position or rank in the group or something like that. He's going to be much more attempting to be much more empathetic or something like that. So yeah.
I love it. Thank you. Good. I think I'd like to pick up, have a scene with all of you having eventually made your way to the farmhouse. The sun is getting low in the sky. It's going to be dark pretty soon. And the farmhouse is still reasonably intact and reasonably comfortable as far as places to crash for the night, or to at least hide out for a bit. And so I think we'll just have all 5 of you together. I don't think we're going to quite do sharing a meal. We're not there yet. I don't think it's going to be quite that situation. But I do just think maybe catching a breather, kind of figuring out, what's going on. A couple of you have heard some strange things coming from the barn, or seen some strange things coming from the barn. So let's just have that scene. I will interrupt it when I'm ready. So role play.
I think as people kind of start filtering into the farmhouse, I think Karadik kind of can hear some movement from up in Lufton. He kind of emerges and kind of scrambles down the sort of ladder that goes up to it. Sort of dusts himself down a bit. I think there might be something still in the barn. I don't know if it's some livestock or whatever that was left here from before.
If there's a horse in there, that could make this journey a lot easier.
If this is a horse, you can maybe talk to him like you turned the big gigantic crow a bit earlier. Will help us. Sorry for not intervening in your help, but I don't see what I could have done to help you, and unless I was just throwing myself under the beak. But what could that help us?
And I think Karadik is definitely going to kind of flush and generally look evasive, and scuff his feet on the floor a bit.
I think this journey has shown us all that we all have our own strengths and our own weaknesses, and that is why we are all still together instead of making this journey alone. There's no reason to apologize for that. As far as the prospects of a furry friend in the barn, I sure hope he has not been tainted or bloated in the same way as that poor crow was. for communicating with our nature's friends is a lot easier when they are not clouded.
I have a question for Bosco before we continue. You mentioned, like, you sort of apologized about like not being able to help Lambert with the crow. How do you feel about that inside? Like, how is it making you feel? Do you feel guilty? Do you feel some other way?
Yes, I feel guilty because I trusted my instinct. I went to run. I hide. But then I saw Lambert stand before the crow, and maybe I should have done something, but I don't know what I could have done. But I should have done maybe something.
Yeah, I think I'd like for you to take an unnamed burden, please. We can continue the scene for a bit if you wish, or if everybody's good, we can continue.
We should be careful. It may not look like one of those crows, but it could have been corrupted nonetheless. When we're ready to move on, I'll take a look and see if I can tell.
Are you going to go check out the barn? Yeah, I think that's a good plan. Sort of facing your normal cowardice, right? Perhaps. It's good. Are you going alone or are you taking someone with you?
I think I'm proposing myself to go with or just behind you.
Yeah, I mean, I think at a certain point, I just stay here, but like I'm not opposed to them being close by.
Very good. So I think at this point, I think the moon is starting to be high in the sky, and it's a big, bright moon. So it illuminates the space pretty well. You know, most everything is just sort of like in silhouette, but you can make out the barn and kind of make out, as your eyes adjust, you can make things out in the environment. I will tell you, as you're approaching the barn, you hear a voice coming from inside the barn, Malaric. It's the voice of a man, and the voice says, "Oh, I've got to water the crops. Someone has to tend to the crops, or, well, we shall all fall to ruin. Someone's got to do it, and of course, I suppose it has to be me." Malaric, what do you do?
Well, is there somewhere I can get a peek into this barn? Like if I climb up somewhere, or?
I think so. Let's take a look at the moves and see if there's an appropriate move here. Possibly negotiate an obstacle, because you're trying to like get inside, look inside, see what's going on. I think negotiate an obstacle is appropriate. You've said how you're going to do so. You're going to basically climb up. I think there's enough like gaps in the wood where you can climb up and look inside directly. Absolutely. And I think you're probably going to roll with, I'd say keen or true, probably true, because it's sort of a bravery thing, right?
Okay. That's a 4.
Very good. On a miss, prepare for things to go from bad to worse. I don't think I'm going to give you another burden here, because you're already sort of like pushing against the boundaries of your cowardice named burden, right? But You climb up. You do look inside. I think the problem here is that Bosco is still out in the yard, a little exposed, right? And so we'll talk about that in a moment. But what you see, Malaric, is you see a man, the farmer perhaps. He is tied to a scarecrow post, his arms outstretched. And it's kind of like a horrifying farm equipment mecca, because jutting out from the post, it's almost spider-like, are harvesting sickles and scythes, pitchforks, other like mechanical, or not mechanical, but metal bits from the farm tools, sort of creating this strange spider-like carapace, in the center of which is this farmer tied like a scarecrow to the post. And you start to hear the scratching and the clanging as it moves towards the entrance to the barn, to leave the barn. And indeed it does. It comes through it sort of pushes open the doors. Bosco, you see this thing and you're in its way. And the farmer attached to it is just saying, "Time to water the crops, time to feed the animals. But first we have to chase out the vermin. The vermin. And Bosco, what do you do?
I scream first in order to. Well, it's my guts, but it will also alarm the others.
Basically, it comes down to run or hide. I don't think he sees you yet, actually, if you want to hide. I think that's an option. So.
It's too late. I screamed.
Good point. That is a fair point as well. Yeah. So what do you do?
I scream and then I run. But this time I try to run to get him away from my comrades.
Nice. And so when you run, name who you most want to protect of all your
This
comrades.
time I want to protect Malaric.
Good. Go ahead and roll plus Swift.
Sorry.
We can clear the dice too.
Yeah.
Let's just clear them.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead and roll now. I cleared it.
It's plus
Swift.
Plus Swift. So it's a 12.
Very good. So let's read the move here. On 10 plus, you've taken everyone with you. So not just Malaric. Give me the whole scene. How are you escaping? How are you getting everybody out of the farm safely here? What's happening?
I think I first take the mecha farmer at the opposite side of Malaric. I jump through and over the wall. I jumped before, but in the other sense, when I was fleeing the crow, and the creature followed me. And then I took a curve to get back to the farm and get the other with me. Tell them to leave, that the creature will follow back, but the curve I take was difficult for the creature to follow us, and it gave us enough time to leave its sight and to get out of there.
I love it. Good. Any passing thoughts as you're all running away. If anyone wants to just add a little bit of extra color to their particular fleeing scene, by all means do.
Other than me turning to Karadek and saying, I guess it wasn't a horse. Or it was a really messed up horse. Or hoping it's not another crow. That's about it.
Yeah, and I think Karadek is going to very much run along, and kind of glance back over his shoulder at this thing coming out of the barn and sort of redouble his speed.
I think because I was there from the start of this chase, I have a little bit of extra time. It's being led around to like knock open whatever reservoir of water he apparently has to water these crops, so that maybe he has this farmer has to stop and like shut that off before trying to chase after us.
Nice, good. I like the idea that he's still tending to everything on the farm, right? And he probably adds part of the reservoir to his body, right, to his shell, right, in some way, like some rope or something gets tangled up in there. Very good. I love it. Thank you. This is the Steelstone Field is dangerous because it's essentially a haunted place, right? It's literally crawling with remnants and horrifying scavengers. And traveling at night is not ideal, but it is probably best to make your way, get as far away from the Steelstone Field as you can. And I think I'd like another Wayfinder roll here. Not Wayfinder, but what do we call it? Charter course, but not from our Wayfinder. I think I'd like to know, of the three of others of you, who is most likely to be able to navigate or otherwise find your way in the dark?
It could be Karadek because he's kind of used to being like out in the, looking after the sheep and that. But at the same time, I don't feel like he's in a position where he would naturally take up the lead at this stage. So I'm happy. He's a fallback, I'd say. But if someone else has a thought,
right now I think Bosco is more on reaction than action, and don't think it will be good or efficient at leading anyone. Instead,
Mallory, you're a turncoat. You worked for the Doomslord for a time, right? Mm-hmm. You might be most equipped here, at least navigating a figurative dark, if not a literal dark, right? Would you like to do the charter course roll?
Sure.
Well, tell a story of the journey. So take a look at the stories tab and pick a story of the journey and tell us.
The playbook stories, can those be sprinkled in for any of the stories? Like, do they count as a story of the journey if we wanted to?
That is a very good point. And let's take a look at the, yes.
Mine says which it can be.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think for everybody, it can substitute home or journey. So.
With one of how you made contact with the Doomslord in a place that should have been protected. And I think, maybe it was a time I was looking for a place to shelter for the night. not a brightly moonlit night like this, a very dark night. And there was some kind of holy place that should have been safe. What was it?
Like a shrine or a temple or something.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was picturing. And I think whoever the protector of this place, the keeper of this place, had been corrupted, but in the darkness, I couldn't see that, and was taken in.
Oh, so maybe like a priest or priestess, like a priest who was corrupted by the Doomslord.
Yeah.
Are they the one who basically preached to you about the Doomslord, possibly? Or like convinced you the Doomslord is an all right guy?
I don't think it was that. It was but I mean, I think they sent me in the wrong. When I left the next day, following their guidance, they led me on the wrong path.
Oh, moved you closer to
They just sent me into a trap. Yeah. Got
it. Okay, good. I like that. Good. Well, let's go back to the move then. Tell a story of the journey and roll plus keen.
Ooh, that's 12.
Wonderful. On a hit, you find a way forward and mark the journey home path, which I'll do. On a 10 plus, you come on any obstacles from a position of strength and confidence. I like that very much. So we'll talk about that. The next place on our route, the next location is the Great Sapphire Bridge. And by the time, I think you basically go through the forest, you go through the wilderness, you manage to find a place to sort of like shelter up for the night. And the next morning you set out and you are shortly thereafter, you're at the Great Sapphire Bridge. Now the Great Sapphire Bridge it's more than just a bridge. I think it's almost like a city or a small community on a bridge. So there is a great big bridge that spans over this enormous, massive river, very wide river. And on either side of the bridge are just little structures, small temples and shrines. There's like a merchant stall. There's merchant stalls, a bazaar, places to eat, and that kind of thing. I will tell you, though, that because of the war, it's not bustling with all the people like it usually is. Normally, it's just crowded with people, right? That's the stories you've heard anyway. And now it's it's almost like a sad echo of what it used to be. I do have a question here for you all. What do you see on the Great Sapphire Bridge, or what do you experience that shows it was built for far larger beings than you? Whoever wants to go first, please. I'd like for everybody to contribute if you can.
I think that it's one of these ones where like the main roadway itself is sort of paved and stone, but the footpaths on the side are just like wooden planks in there, and they're obviously set where for for a human-sized person, there, you know, there's a gap, there's gaps between them to let the rain down, but it's fine. But it's you know, probably not actually wide enough for one of us to slip through. It's no, they're not that set apart, but you could certainly like lose a foot through the gaps between these planks.
Nice, thank you.
To gain access to the bridge before it goes over the river, there is some steps, and each of those steps is very high for us to. We have to climb it with our hands to get on it, and there's a little road, a mud road that has been set on the side for carts and horses to get on the bridge, because even for humans the steps are high.
Thank you.
The railing along the sides of it, there's just the oversized stone railing and then human-sized wooden railing, like kind of filling in between the gaps.
Awesome.
I think mine has to do with the signage, like little watering holes or markets or what have you that are located along. I think I find that I have to be walking on the opposite side of the bridge to be able to read the signage on the opposite side because it's so high up. Like I find that I'm craning my neck in order to read whatever signage of whatever the hell we're walking past.
Good, thank you. Per the roll, you are promised an obstacle, but you have the upper hand on the obstacle. As you are making your way across this bridge, slowly, if only because it's big and you have short strides, you start to hear someone calling down from below, down in the water below. They say, "Hello! Hello! I see you up there! Hello!" Karadek, what do you do?
I think Karadek's going to kind of look down, look over the edge of the bridge, see if they can see this person down there, or whatever they may be.
Initially, you don't see anything, but after a moment or two, a boat, a river bark, materializes on the water, and there's a group of people on the boat. They appear to be battered and mangled, missing lower parts of their jaw, eyes popped out, limbs clearly broken and twisted, but they're standing on the deck of the boat. And the leader of them, the captain, I suppose, looks up at you and says, "You're the first living thing we've seen in a good long while. Come down here and treat with us."
Are you all okay? You look
Do we look okay? And he opens his mouth and just a bunch of like river detritus spills out, like silt and rocks and small fish.
I think Karadek will kind of squeal and leap back from the edge of the bridge. There's people down there. There's strange people.
I'll go take a look at the people down there.
From the bridge, like looking down?
Yeah, through planks.
Yeah, you see as I've described it. It's about the ship is a fairly small boat. It's a fairly small boat, but there's about maybe a good 10, 15, 20 people milling about the top deck. And the captain, he says, "I see you peeking through the slats. Don't think you can hide from me."
I'm not hiding. I'm just watching you and saying hello on your pass.
"We insist upon a parley. Come down here so we can speak with you, tell you our troubles, which, if you can believe it, are somehow worse than what our condition would seem to indicate."
I think
Why not speak?
Go ahead. I'll holler after you.
Why not speak from here? If someone can speak and listen, why not just speak and listen? Why we have to go down there and maybe not find our way up because we're so small in size?
He says, "All right, stay where you are." And the boat dematerializes and is no longer there. Let's just have that scene with all of you waiting for something to happen.
Oh God, what have we invited up here?
They look like ghosts, but more solid.
Whatever help they need, I don't know that we can give it. We should go.
Yeah, and their boats it doesn't seem like it was in good condition for us to get onto.
Yeah, I agree with Malaric. We should. I'm totally fine with keeping them waiting for us all night. I think we should just keep going.
After just a few moments,
Oh no.
the captain and crew all materialize on the bridge. And they say, "Well, here we are. Now, here's the problem that my shipmates and I are faced with. We, you see, died on this river 300 years ago. Can you believe it? And to get into the gritty details, our boat was capsized, and we're sort of stuck here. We can't really go further down the river of immortality, as it were. We've managed. We've settled in. Not a big deal. The problem is that now, because of your great war, there are many, 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 many more dead people around here. If you could please all close your eyes for a moment and think really hard. Focus on the veil, peering through the veil, looking at what lies on the other side. Close your eyes, please.
You're not going to eat us, are you?
No, we are incorporeal and therefore incapable of putting things into our bodies.
I would like to use my special move, Guileless, if it's possible.
Which one?
Guileless.
Oh, yes, I know. Yeah, it's perfect.
I want to approach that captain.
Yeah, I think
and,
it's good. What do you say?
And I want to tell him, howdy, Captain. Where we come from, there was always some strange stories that our parents told us about some people, strange people looking, navigating on seas, on rivers, and catching some fellows on the bridge and telling them, close your eyes and see whatever they were promising. What I didn't understand at this when our parents were telling us, it was not always to follow strangers' advice. And I don't know if it's something I learned or through my parents telling, or through the long journey all my friends come with me, and maybe there's something else to do than just close our eyes and have trust in you. Why not you close your eyes and trust us?
I like it. Are you doing the how a saying from home took on a surprising new meaning for you on the journey? Is that the story of home you're marking? Seems like the right one. Oh, Nicholas, are you doing which stories of home are you marking here? Is it the fifth one down there? How a saying from home took on a surprising new meaning for you on the journey?
Sorry, yes.
Okay. Okay. Just want to confirm. Per your move, however, we will tell a story of their home and kind. They say, well, little one, that is a very, very lovely little parable, idiom. I don't know. I didn't study literature in school. I studied knot tying and navigating, although you might be surprised to understand it's not too difficult to navigate a river. They just go in one direction. Now, I shall relay to you a tale of home, specifically of our home, which is this godforsaken stretch of river underneath this bridge, which did not exist when we died here originally. We learned to live with the living. And he does have his eyes closed as he's telling the story. We learned to live with the living. We weren't happy about all the construction that took place over the course of 100 years to build this massive structure. We weren't delighted by seeing young families moving in, tradesmen and merchants, filled with life and love and bone and blood. But we made peace with it. Turns out you can reach a sweet spot in the ethereal plane where you get to just sort of exist and you don't have to deal with the living. Everything takes on a bit of a gray cast, but that's all right. You learn to make do. But then there was a war. And he opens his eyes and you quite suddenly see lots of other ghosts, phantoms, spectral people wandering about the bridge, looking very confused, crawling around in the river, looking very confused, not knowing what to do, speaking inaudible words. He's like, in the beginning, it's very hard. You don't know what's going on. It takes about a good 20 to 50 years to get it all sorted out. In the meantime, we're here with all of these unfortunates jamming up the place, getting in our way. I can't go to take a spectral piss without tripping over a farmhand who doesn't realize that he got speared with a polearm. It's a lot. We were hoping you might be able to, since you have a very direct connection to the mortal coil still, and they are still quite lost, having just been extracted from the mortal coil, but still close enough to it, that you might be able to gently guide them away. If you don't do this, we will have to haunt you forever. You know that, right?
I know, that's what the saying says. What?
He points over there. You see that little one on my crew there? Yeah. Practically feral. You don't want him haunting you, trust me.
During the speech he was telling, what the others are doing, because maybe it's, as my move says, it can distract them long enough for someone to get the drop on them.
Right. Like if you want to just like sneak away, I think you could, right? Maybe not you, but everybody else I think could probably just like get out of here.
I'm in front of him. I listen to him. I catch his eye when he's telling his story.
Yeah. That's a good question. I mean, Karadik, Lambert, and Malric, what are you all doing while he's... I think the tale is much longer than I actually did it, right? Like, I think it's going on for some length, right? He probably talks about how every member of the crew died, probably talks about, like, I think he kind of interjects with various, like, various moments in the various centuries of things that happened and they had to deal with and all that kind of stuff, right? It's giving you the whole history, the whole tale. What are you all doing?
The thing that comes to my mind is maybe looking over or through the slats, I guess. We're too short to look over the edge. Trying to find remnants of this wrecked boat, like see if there's like a destined, like, okay, that's where he's talking about. Just to sort of find it and see if it's somewhere that we could maybe get to and try to, I don't know, say a few words in front of and
bury it or something.
Call it a day. Yeah. Something.
Yeah. Do some rites or something. I like that.
Yeah.
We'll hold that for a second. Karadik, what are your ideas?
I think Karadik is probably mostly content. Well, content is probably not the right word. Is willing to do this whole like seance or reverse seance type thing to try and get them to move on. I think he is still listening to this story because he's that sort of thing where he's like terrified of these ghosts, but at the same time, it is an interesting story.
To be clear, a seance to get the riverboat people.
No, so the new ghosts.
All the new ghosts. Yeah.
He's happy to go along with the river ghosts plan, basically.
Either the river ghosts move on so they can find some peace, or the other ones move on.
Yeah.
Or maybe you all just sneak away. Malric, what are you thinking about doing? What's your plan?
Malric definitely doesn't want to go along with whatever these ghosts are proposing. He'd much rather try to disperse a boat full of ghosts than take on all of the ghosts from this war. So the plan of if we see where the ruins of this boat are and finding some way to, if they can be sent down the river into the afterlife, or just sent down the river from us. Either way,
doing the bare minimum,
whichever works.
Good. We'll probably resolve this scene next time, but I do want to just leave you with a little coda to the scene. While this little conversation is going on, the story's being told, Bosco's politely nodding his head while all that's happening. The little feral sailor is like hunched over like Gollum, like eating a ghost fish with his teeth. While that's going on, one of you will start to notice, or maybe no one notices yet, but the forest from which you just emerged begins to lose its color. It starts to become gray. There is a sort of miasmic force moving in the area, and this force maybe even ever so slightly touches the Sapphire Bridge, turning a bright blue railing into a dull matte gray. And we shall end our session there. Let's do stars and wishes as our debrief. So stars are things that you enjoyed about the session, and wishes are things that you hope to see next time. I will start. Stars, I really love this game. The game works so well and does exactly what it wants to do so well. And so stars to Leah and Alexi for just a really, really well-structured, fun game. Stars also to all of you for your role play. I enjoyed many different scenes. I enjoyed the little bonds between the characters that we're starting to see, and yeah, and I just had a really good time, just kind of playing some of these crazy NPCs. So that was really, really fun. And wishes, I am excited to see the first instance of the share a meal move. I think that's going to be fun. And yeah, I think that's mine. And then obviously I'm just excited to continue seeing the journey. Whoever wants to go next with stars or wishes, please do.
Yeah, no, definitely stars around. It was a really good, fun session. I like to reiterate that, yeah, I really like, this is a really nice, neat little game. I'm really liking what we've got out of it so far. Yeah, stars, Jason, I think done a really good job so far of just like keeping things moving and introducing the rules and stuff as we go, which has been great. And yeah, some really fun character moments as well. NPC moments have been brilliant. Yeah, I really enjoyed seeing sort of everyone approach sort of problems in sort of their own slightly different way. I really like the Lambert's being this sort of fun sort of like so far definitely coming across as like the competent one, and I really like that idea of and sort of also being that kind of just like a bit laid back and chill sort of thing has been cool. I loved I love Bosco, and particularly that the just then the use of that move. It's a really cool move, and I thought that was done really nicely. And yeah, Mallory, I love that moment with the yeah, sort of the that sort of just that edge of like more of the wariness and the marks of the Doomslord on him have been cool to see as well. So yeah, no, it's been really good. Wish-wise, honestly, more of what we've been doing. But I'm looking forward to seeing some more of the bits of story coming out. Like I said, I think the things like the share a meal move and stuff, those are going to be fun when they come out. But yeah, no, just really looking forward to seeing where it goes.
Awesome, thank you.
As a stars, I liked the game and listening to all of you. It was great to see the story come through all the short stories of the game. The way, Jason, you put us on 2 times to describe the scene and at the bridge and at the castle at the first. It was great short scenes with the ear. I really like them. As wishes, I would like to share something with Keredic and Lambert more. I have a scene I shared with Malaric. It was short. I would like to share maybe something more, but I look forward to share more scenes with other characters.
Wonderful, thank you. Troy or Brian?
Sure. The stars I had, I'm really enjoying the game. I'm enjoying how it's sort of a blend between a PBTA game and I play For the Queen a lot when things fall through, and it's like this blend of storytelling that For the Queen provides, and this sort of mixes it into. I could see how
it's got vibes of Fall of Magic too. Like,
yeah,
it's got big Fall of Magic vibes. Yeah, I
could see how I take these stories and the ideas of like telling stories into any of my other games. I also, the star of, I don't know how, but maybe after that crow thing, it seems like Lambert's presence in the group is somehow causing a whole bunch of people to have burdens that like in some way, shape or form are connected to either him or feeling, I don't know, there's been talks of like cowardice, and I'm curious to see like if Lambert's just presence is causing people to feel like they're cowards, or is Lambert in some ways an asshole? Like, causing this? I don't know. I'm curious. As far as wishes go, one thing is like, I hope like next week when when I tell the stories, to try to do it in a way that is a little more, maybe not in character, but leaving it up to the other characters who are physically around me when I'm about to flee or when I'm about to chart a course. Like it's the kind of story that people could react to or respond to in the scene. And then I'm really interested in the stories of Doom and how telling those stories as sort of a putting on the crown. I'm excited to see that when these hunters get in our way. So.
Yeah, that's a really intriguing part of the rules, because the Doom list, there's only 2 you can choose from in the beginning, and in order to get more to choose from, you have to do different things in the game. But basically, like, you're kind of like restricted until you do that, right? Like you have a certain relationship to the Doom until you're able to get more options open. So I think it's kind of it's a cool thing. It's interesting to me because the game, I'm sorry, Brian, I'll get you in a moment, but it's interesting to me because I think the game is maybe meant to be played in 1 or 2 sessions, but I could easily see this being 4 or 5 sessions, like no problem, right? So it's kind of an interesting thing there. Sorry, Brian, please do your stars and wishes.
It's just stars all around. Yeah, I had a really good time. All the characters and everything that happened was really fun. And wishes, I'll go ahead and yeah, we didn't see yet the share a meal, but then there's another mechanic we haven't seen yet, which is evocative details, which I think, if you don't mind, I'll go ahead and paste those onto the stories tab.
Oh, go for it. Yeah,
because that might be a good reminder that that's an option.
Yeah, I think they're there just to be used as needed. You know, they're kind of like open-ended for sure. I never like. I'm glad they're included. It's really helpful that they're included. I personally have my massive, endless archive of fantasy details to rely on. So, but you all should definitely grab them and do what you will with them. Wonderful. Well, this is great fun. We're finishing up just on time. Thank you all so much, and I look forward to finishing up next week. I'm going to stop the recording.